Today we finally got a brand new look at the previously teased magical FPS single player game Immortals of Aveum, and since we recently got to see it at a preview event, we have a bunch of details we can bring you guys so you know a little bit more about this upcoming game, and I really think no one expected it to be quite like it is. Having played a lot of Doom in the past, I never really thought, hey, what if we swapped out the Doomslayer for a battle mage, and instead of having a variety of different weapons we used magic instead. But that's what Immortal of Aveum is kind of looking like to me. It's definitely looking to be something different, and with its graphics and visuals so far looking pretty good, if you're a fan of fast-paced shooters and fantasy themes in general, then there's a lot here that might appeal to you. From the different colour and visual spectacles of your attacks and the different enemy varieties, it looks like Immortals of Aveum may fill that fantasy of being a powerful mage in a first-person perspective. The game itself is being made by Ascendant Studios, which is a new independent studio, which usually could mean the game can go either way. But honestly, in this case, there's a ton of experienced industry veterans working in this studio. The CEO himself of the studio is Brett Robbins, who has over 26 years of experience working on games. And a bunch of these games that he's worked on are some of my personal favourites from my nostalgia. From the PlayStation 2 classics of Legacy of Kain and even the Lord of the Rings Return of the King game, these are ones that I personally look back fondly on. But it goes more than that. He's also worked on the original Dead Space and even several Call of Duty titles including World War II, Advanced Warfare, and Modern Warfare 3. So for the CEO to have direct experience making popular FPS games, it's definitely a good sign when they're trying to make an FPS game themselves, but with this magical twist. Outside of this, the other talent working on the game have covered a variety of popular Telltale games in the past, which hopefully will translate into this game because it is meant to be a single player experience, so we really need that story to be gripping and engaging. And if you're enjoying this video, clicking that like button will really help us out. But speaking of the story, we do know that we will play as a character called Jack, who essentially has humble origins as just a more or less normal person, but he became known as an unforeseen later on in his life. This is essentially someone who unexpectedly unlocks their magical abilities later on in their life instead of from their childhood or birth. The world of Aveum is rife with combat and battles though, and there's something called the Endless War that's currently going on, which essentially is a conflict for one of the kingdoms to have total control over all magic. After centuries of a stalemate between the two most powerful kingdoms, Roshan has pushed Lucium to the brink of destruction, and that's bad because Lucium is the kingdom that we are a part of. So our character Jack, with his now found new abilities, must work hard to become an Immortal, which is an elite group of powerful battle mages and protectors of Lucium, to uncover the mysteries of Aveum's troubled past and save the kingdom. Furthermore, the magic within Aveum is actually separated into 3 forms: blue for force, red for chaos, and green for life. Jack is actually something called a Triarch, which basically means he has a super rare ability to wield all 3 different types of magic, which is reflected in how the first-person shooter aspect of the game plays. Of course, we'll be playing in a first-person perspective and using magic for both offense and defense, and to do this we can switch between the different magical forms and use timed counters, as well as having access to heavy spells and control spells to break enemy shields or pull enemies around towards us. Think of the 3 color forms of magic as 3 different weapon types that you can switch between, and each have their own different style of attack. For instance, red chaos magic is kind of like a shotgun blast that deals more damage the closer you are to the enemy. The blue force magic is more of a projectile precise blast that can shoot kind of like a DMR in other games. And the green life magic is a really interesting one, which can essentially spray out a ton of homing projectiles that will automatically target the enemy. We do know there's going to be over 25 spells in total in the game, and up to 80 talent points that we can use to upgrade our character, which we can choose to either specialize into one form of magic or spread out into multiple different forms in order to create some combos. On top of this, we will also have gear which is done through sigils and totems that will give us higher stats and essentially cause our magic to deal more damage, and we'll get these through killing stronger enemies, exploring the world, and solving puzzles out in the world. As a single player game, there's definitely a focus on the visuals. With dramatic cutscenes, giant monsters, and flashy spells, it looks like they are both in the cutscenes but also seemingly in the in-game footage too. For me, a lot of it comes comes down to the story and the characters that we will be interacting with. Hopefully they're going to be interesting and engaging characters without too much cheesy dialogue, but also the gameplay has to feel visceral and responsive, as the power fantasy of being a battle mage and slinging spells to take down your foes in first person is definitely something that intrigues me, and I can't wait till I can try it out for myself. When it comes to the world of Aveum, here's what they have to say. Dive into Aveum, a world of magitech thrust into an endless struggle between Lucium and Rasharn over the control of magic. From the lush forests of Rasharn to the snowy peaks of Kalthus and the lava caves of Calderas, explore over a dozen different biomes filled with vibrant enemies, side quests, puzzles, and boss fights. So from what they're saying and what I've seen so far, it does look visually impressive, there does seem to be a good variety of enemies, the spells do look flashy, and I am intrigued as to how the boss fights will play out. But of course, we're going to have to wait until we can see more to make a final judgment. Definitely hit that like button if you enjoyed this recap, and the two videos on screen now we think you'll really enjoy if you did enjoy this one. Of course, you don't have to if you don't want to, but if you did enjoy this video, you're probably going to like these ones too. And then tell us what you think after watching in the comments down below.